Do they announce it and tell us? Huh? Do they announce and say we can start?
She should give you the high sign.
We're good? Okay. All right, good morning, everyone. This is the January 13th, 2023 meeting of the Trees and Green Infrastructure Committee. We have a somewhat limited complement today. We have two of our members are unable to make it, but we're soldiering on, and we were going to discuss a number of topics from the agenda. So first order of business, I'm calling the meeting to order at I'm going to say 10:07, and I'm going to do the roll call. Ms. Downs?
Present.
Present. Mr. Van Horn? Here. Ms. Gay?
Here.
Myself. We have four, so we have a quorum to proceed today, so.
Just a reminder, I'll need everybody to speak into the mic.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I need to hear my voice, which is not the thing you really want to hear most of the time. Okay, I thought we would do the approval of minutes real quick, assuming everybody's had a chance to read them. I think they're very well composed minutes. They totally encapsulate what took place at our last meeting, and
Because I watched it again.
yeah, right. There you go. Anybody want to make a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay. Anybody want a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nobody opposed? Okay, we have approved minutes. I'm going to, we have one piece of correspondence that I think was submitted before, but concerning the tree list, and we'll get to that when we go to that item. In fact, I think I would like to, if I may, rearrange the order, because Katie may have some scheduling issues, and I'd like to, if we could, address the topic of the tree list, item D, and under old business. Just so you know, this is something that will be part of the, contained in the revision of the new tree ordinance, which former Commissioner Gay was spearheading. I think you were championing it. I think you were, you all those great words.
I sure spent a lot of time with it.
Yeah.
And in fact, Stan was just telling me that his plan is to get it out, for public review fairly soon, and then have
Right.
any feedback at I think it's your March workshop, and then finalize it at the
Okay.
April workshop and April regular
Yeah,
meeting. So
but they
that's the
wanted
time.
us to weigh in, so.
On the tree list, yeah, that's one of the things he's waiting for, is for our recommendation on the tree list.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'll mention, there was one letter from a former member of this committee, Elise Burns, who I think, I don't think we need to read it, but it's available on the, on the agenda if anybody at home wants to review it or whatever. But I think the issue has to do with a blight that certain oaks are susceptible to, and I'm not in any way knowledgeable on the topic, so I'm just curious if Liz, by the way, Liz Lingo, City Arborist, is with us today. I'm sorry I didn't announce that before. But your thoughts on that issue, and obviously Katie or whomever else would like to weigh in, what your concerns might be, if any.
I personally think that it's, I have not knowingly seen the blight, but on the northern red oaks, but I do know that it is a problem now with the changing, with climate change, the planting northern species in southern areas. That's basically something that long-term, it's not sustainable. So, and I have, there have been multiple discussions on that in the professional community and the continuing education classes that I have had. So, I mean, it is a fact.
Okay.
And, it is, I don't know that there's going to be a problem in the next 2 years, but in the next 10 years, if people decided to plant, uh, only northern red oaks and other northern species here, we would run into a problem with losing a large number of trees. So, I mean, it is something that we should seriously take into account when we're compiling the list or the final list. But, I mean, the last word I would think would go to Liz, so.
What, I didn't read her thing. What was she talking about oak wilt or bacterial leaf scorch?
Bacterial leaf scorch.
Bacterial leaf scorch has been a huge problem, especially, I don't know if she's from like the DC
Yes.
area.
Yes, she is.
It was a big problem there, I don't know, 10 years ago and on from when I worked there, where, because they have a lot of street trees of the, I want to say it was more the pin oaks than even the northern reds, which we have more southern reds here. But it would get, because they had wide right-of-ways, and you'd have neighborhoods or areas that just like every single one had bacterial leaf scorch because it just goes from one to the other. And there's no good treatment for it, just keeping the tree healthy. There's some companies that do like injections that kind of like hide the symptoms, but it doesn't actually cure anything. I mean, if we start going through a list of trees and eliminating everything with a severe insect or disease problem, we won't have any left, quite frankly.
Right.
Well, I guess
I mean-
that was kind of what I wanted to establish, I guess, is the concern enough to like, strike it from the list, or would you
No.
have a certain asterisk with,
We'd have it on every tree.
yeah,
So, I mean,
Yeah.
listen, an oak itself, there's probably a dozen diseases it can get.
Right.
And then when you start adding in insects for other plants, I mean,
Uh-huh.
I would argue dogwood would be eliminated, sycamores, even probably London planes would be eliminated because of the bad anthracnose. It would just, white oaks can get it really badly too, or they can get oak wilt. They can recover from it maybe sometimes. The list goes on and on.
Well, one of the species she did write about was were the pin oaks, and I agree with Liz. I mean, you can't strike every tree that has an issue from the list, or we'd be left with nothing. But I think for one thing, what you're saying is accurate, Liz. I mean, like, enough not to plant only red oaks and northern red oaks and pin oaks as street trees. So as long as you're keep a keen eye to property owners saying, I want to plant like 30 pin oaks on my property,
I'll be honest, I have not seen bacterial leaf scorch here in the last 6-7 years I've been here.
Lisa's note says it's spreading on the red oaks on Henlopen. That's what she says here. We are seeing bacterial scorch spread through many of our red oaks on Henlopen Avenue. Several have been cut down due to disease, and unfortunately, the red oak in our front yard will also soon have to be removed.
I've not had any permits for southern red oaks with bacterial leaf scorch. That's all I can
Okay.
say. I'm not walking around trying to sell tree work in people's yards, so there may be a ton out there that I haven't seen or noticed because you really have to get it close up to look at it.
Yeah.
And really, I mean, with something like that, you can tell, but you still want to send it out to get diagnosed if you suspect it has it.
Well, she was talking about northern red oaks,
We don't have many northern red oaks.
and she,
Almost all of ours
Just
are
mentioned ones
falcata.
on Henlopen, and I don't know what they are.
I don't know what they are
They're
either. Southern
mainly
red?
southern. I mean, there's probably some northern mixed in there, I'm gonna assume. But
Well, I mean, is the point of, excuse me, is the point of the tree list is for planting of new trees, right? So, I mean, I guess, obviously, we're having, and I think obviously to raise concern for including certain species that we may be introducing or, adding to or whatever, I'm just trying to establish the degree of concern here. And I don't know if I'm basically relying on you.
well, my thought is the more you have on the list, the better. If most people who plant these trees are looking them up, it's not money, they spend lightly. They're hiring people or they're doing their research to see what they like. And
Okay.
that comes with pros and cons. And I think we can give people the option. And if they elect to plant a tree that may one day get a disease, we're also, like Kay was saying, predicting for the future in climate change, which has been a major theme. I mean, some of the trees 10 years from now, even though they would be native to Delaware, may not really be plantable anymore. So I think the more things you have on a list for people to choose from, the better, and they can make their own informed decisions.
Okay.
I agree with you. I mean, the more diversity we have in the city, the better. I mean, so if someone chooses to plant a pin oak or a northern red oak, then, and it ends up having a problem, it's not going to affect every single other tree.
Yeah, the resiliency, basically. The more, there's a bunch of recipes and formulas and percentages out there, but you don't want to have like the same tree everywhere, because then
Right.
something
Right.
like Dutch elm disease comes and you have no trees, or emerald ash borer, and you are removing 150 trees in your neighborhood, which we've been lucky with those type of things here because we don't have those like mass planting type. I'd say the closest thing maybe would be the pear trees in Country Club Estates, but imagine if they all developed all got one insect that attacked and killed them within 1 year, something like that.
I guess I have two other questions about it. First of all, so where do we stand with crepe myrtles now? Or
In terms of what?
are they on, I can't remember, are they on there?
On
The
what?
tree list?
On which, the
Yours.
proposed one?
Yeah.
No.
Not at all. Even the tree form of them,
Ugh,
even the
I don't
tall
know.
form of them. 'Cause
I mean, the problem with the crepe myrtles, and you can't really control it. I mean, as much as a notches is a tree, in my opinion. I mean, they get 30 feet tall and 20 feet wide. I have one at my house, and it's bigger than it's taller than my single-story house.
mine is
but-
too. That's why I asked.
But, and I can't remember if they're on the list at all or not, because it's been months since I even drafted that. And it was meant as a draft for people to add, remove, whatever. But the problem with the crepes is that you just can't control if somebody plants a notches that's, 10 feet tall and 2.5 inches, that the next year they're not going to chop it back. It's just such a common thing with them.
To cut back, yeah, okay.
I mean, you could theoretically do that with any tree, right? You could say, hey, I want you to come do that to my dogwood. I mean, I hope the tree company would tell you no, but magnolia would be one. Sometimes people like to kind of head them back, but with crepes, it's so, it occurs so much. I almost feel like it's easier just to avoid them. And they do really well in certain circumstances. I mean, they make really wonderful street trees, and I've always felt that we couldn't even use them for municipal planting so much because they were so prominent, just like we were talking about resiliency and such, and now we have these, the crepe myrtle bark scale, which is everywhere, that imagine if we had been using them as street trees, planting ocean blocks with dozens of crepe myrtles.
Well, it's
you know?
weird because her email says something like crepe myrtle trees are also not included on the Forest Service list, and yet it doesn't seem to be, and that implies it's on ours, but I don't see it. I guess it's
maybe
on
it
our
is.
current one. Well, I don't,
It's not our current one. The current is only natives.
okay, so.
Maybe it is on draft. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm looking at the draft, but I don't see it unless it's by another name.
I went over the list. I didn't see anything.
I mean, but that would be one if the commissioner, like if you guys wanted to recommend to the commissioners that we add certain crepe myrtles to it, I'd be fine with that. I mean, we could take the chance that they wouldn't knock them.
I was gonna say, the only thing would be of some
Well, no.
variety that would be tall, but if you
No.
can't guarantee that because they're gonna get cut, then.
Hold on. Well, the reason they wouldn't have been on there, so I'm trying to remember months and months ago when we talked about this.
Believe me,
the-
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
I've forgotten
The-
everything about the code.
The first part of the list A or whatever,
Yes.
was just the canopy trees, canopy native trees. And I think maybe a London plane, because it's kind of, at this point, that's used more than a sycamore. And then the B list, or whatever we want to call it, was non-native canopies,
Mhm.
non-native to Delaware or Mid-Atlantic, I can't remember what we settled on, a slight difference, but not a big deal. Non-native canopy and native small species. So the crepes would never be on there because they're not native. They're a small species, but they're not native. So
Okay.
Japanese maples, crepes, and those other small ornamentals were not on the plantable list.
Okay. And I guess then the other thing was just her comment about, why didn't we just pick up the Delaware state tree list? Is there a reason ours is different?
That's where
Broader?
the current list, so when I started here, we didn't have a list. It referred
Right.
to it in the code, but nothing existed. So I created it from the
From the-
urban, not McAvoy's, but from the Urban Forest Service, which
Yeah.
is who we deal with.
Right.
From their list with a couple adjustments. And if you look at theirs and ours, my current, with the color coding, that's exactly how they do theirs, because I thought it was so good.
Right.
So we took that list, which is what we have now,
Yeah.
and pretty much the way the list is now, it's deciduous, canopy, evergreen, and then small species, and they're all native.
Right.
So we took the deciduous canopy and then most of the evergreens, like the pines, and they landed in the proposed list A, which is the native canopy trees, okay? And then we took the native small species and put them in the list B, and then added, because part of the whole tree code was we wanted to increase the amount of species that could be planted.
Okay.
So that's where we got into adding, I don't know if Zelkova's in there, but like a yellow wood, a coffee tree, stuff like that. So we have everything that's in the Forest Service list, but we expanded it to some non-natives.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
I have a tree that I think should be added, and I've been saying this for years now. I think we should add Halesia to it. It's a Delaware native.
How big
tree.
does it get? Oh,
They get huge. They get like
I wanna
40, 50
say-
feet tall.
I'm not sure if are they actually 100% native. I know what they call them. It's a silver bell. They're beautiful.
Yeah, they're beautiful. It's a silver bell, and
they're hard to find.
You know what? Wick had them on his list.
Oh, really?
Hmm
Yeah, they are really beautiful. They get like that white,
They get that white spring.
and
Wow.
they're one of those that can be a small tree or a large shrub is going to be my guess. But
They'll get to be. I think there's one that is planted at the Art League, and it's probably 40.
there were
feet
some.
tall.
There were some at a property in town before it got developed. They were maybe 15 to 20. I don't know how long they had been there, but they were in good shape. But yeah, I would say that would definitely be one we could add to the second list if it is, because I'm pretty sure we decided Mid-Atlantic to get little outside of Delaware. I'm pretty sure we said Mid-Atlantic states.
Yep, we did. Well, so do you want to add that one? I mean,
Yeah, that's.
Yeah, I think that would be a good recommendation.
Okay.
Are you guys gonna like develop a list of because
I think, I mean, he's just looking for our feedback. It's not definitive. I mean, the commissioners will ultimately decide.
I don't
but
think we're
if
gonna
we
approve
wanna-
anything,
If
but
we
it's-
want to approve something, we would just approve this list plus the addition, whatever you all want to do. I think he's just looking for feedback.
yeah, I think that's I mean that would be my
I mean, I think if
suggestion.
I would just say in terms of conducting this meeting, unless somebody has, a difference of opinion, please speak it, but otherwise, I think anything is, we'll take as a recommendation from this committee,
Okay. So
If
we'll
that's
just
a-
put
yeah.
forward the recommendation of the addition that Katie suggested?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's a good, and I mean, listen, I'd be fine with anybody from the public or whatever. So, like I said, it was meant to be a rough draft, put it together pretty quickly. I'm sure we missed some trees.
Yeah.
I
Right.
mean, especially some of the non-native canopy trees, because there's a lot of those. So I'm sure there's some somewhere that we missed that make good trees. And by non-native, that doesn't mean they were not native to North America or the U.S. It just meant they weren't native to our region.
Yeah, Liz, you last year, the year before, said something about a tree that you had seen when you were traveling.
It was
And you
the
said
new elm, not the. I was just thinking about it the other day because we planted some and they did really well. Not the Siberian elm; they're not good.
You had suggested it to me for the ocean block of a property.
I'm wondering which one. It would probably help if I even parvifolia.
Yeah.
That was it. Almost parvifolia. It has a similar shape to Zelkova, and everybody loves that shape.
Any other comments from anybody? I mean, I don't know how exhaustive we wanted to be.
No, and I think we could just,
Yeah.
submit
Yeah.
a brief.
Yeah, I mean, I think to the point that we've brought it this far, I don't see any objections to, if we want to think of some others and recommend them, there's still time to do that, I think, if
Well,
need be. But I'm just, I think we wanted to address, certainly want to address Elisa's concerns
Right.
and just any others, we have a complement of people that are knowledgeable in the topic, so, why wouldn't we do that?
Submit something to.
Yeah, yeah, so,
Okay, all right,
okay.
sounds good.
Do you have anything else to add, Liz? I mean, you stay with us, but just, that,
So then we don't need to vote on it, we'll just.
no, I'd just say that I think we spoke our mind and
Okay.
got a couple recommendations, and let's
Well,
move
and if you
forward.
guys come up with anything else, you can just send them. Say if we discuss it at the commissioners level, you guys can just email it to me individually, and I'll look at it. I think the reason it didn't go in the code too, is to keep it a little bit more flexible, so that if we want to add or remove things for whatever reason, overplanting, maybe disease or insects prevalence, then we would be able to do so without necessarily going to like an official voting commissioners meeting and amending the code and all that.
Right, yeah, that's why it's gonna be a separate,
Yeah, and I don't think we necessarily agreed on whether or not the list should be approved by the commissioners when it's updated, but either way, it'll be easier if it's not verbatim in the code.
exactly, yeah, okay.
There's another tree, and I don't know what Liz might think of it, but Styrax obacei.
I don't even know if I know what that one is.
It has a little bell-shaped flower, and they can either be white or pink. I think that's a fairly small tree, but they are pretty. I don't know if they're a northern species, a southern species,
Native to Japan, Korea, and Manchuria.
so it's probably a northern species.
Small though.
Yeah.
Snowbell. Oh, okay. I knew it by the snowbell part. Yeah, so that's kind of like, that would fall in kind of like our crepe myrtle. Like it's a small species, but it's also not native to the area, so we excluded those.
Okay.
but they could make nice street trees. I'm gonna have to keep that one in mind.
Well, anyway,
Okay.
trying to move right along here.
Yeah, so,
Listen,
all right,
okay. I was going to return to the agenda if we just want to hit some of these topics here that I think we can add to. The update on the commemorative tree, did we kind of?
Really isn't one. I mean, I did it last month,
Yeah,
and.
yeah, so
yeah.
I didn't know if there was any further discussion on that or
No, I
whatever.
don't know if anything's come in the last few weeks. If so, I haven't
Okay.
gotten an update. But
So
yeah.
I just wanted to get a
okay.
status report on that, I guess. All right. The tree mapping, I know
Yeah.
we have the document about the,
We do. We have the draft of the brochure, which is great. And I mean, I think it reads very well. I don't know whether I can't tell from looking at it if it's going to be, too much information from a brochure and would have to be cut down, or whether with design, you'll see that things here, I got this from Liz, I think it's great, that the design of the brochure itself could set some of these topics. In other words, it's not going to look just plain black and white like it looks here. And everything, and we had talked about it being a bullet list, and frankly, this kind of is, because you've got these specific topics for each tree, and then the information under each topic is very abbreviated. So, I mean, I'd like to just start talking to Lynn Cohn about getting it designed into a brochure. But then the other thing is we have to order the tags, right, Liz?
Yeah, well, order and install.
Right, yeah. And so I guess we would need to do we need to give you the type for the tags, or we just know what it's going to be and you'll take it from the list? I mean, it's going to be the common name, the scientific name, and a QR code, is that right?
There's,
That-
yeah, a QR code that links to like an online version of
Right.
what you guys see. There's a few different designs you can do, but yeah, I would say probably the main two things or three things would be, well, we'd have to have the city seal, so we'd have
Okay.
that graphic. We'd want to have the tree number. We'd want the common and botanical name.
Right.
Trying to think if there's anything else that
I think that was all we were going to put on it because we wanted to get the small ones.
yeah, I don't think well, they're all the same size, but I don't think there was any need to like put information about the tree
Right.
on
I
the tag.
would agree with that, yeah. Okay. Is that something that you can, pick something to order this has been approved, by the way. In July, the commissioners approved it for budget purposes. So, I mean, because it was minimal. I mean, I think that the tags are $10 or something each.
Wasn't even really like we didn't even like budget for
Right,
it.
no,
It
that's
just
what I mean,
comes
but
out
it
of
was,
the general
yeah.
fund.
So, I mean, that's what we could do, is get the tags ordered and get Lynn Cohn to get a design. She was going to get an outside designer to work on a brochure. Is that
Okay.
the next step?
just for my own edification, the QR codes are those little
Little
boxes
square.
with the
Yeah,
little things,
yeah.
yeah. So you can photograph it and your phone will
Yeah,
tell you.
it's
yeah, so-
essentially a link.
Right, it's a link
it-
to a
it-
website or
correct.
wherever we got. Okay, so I think that's,
Yeah, it pulls up a link on
Yeah.
your phone. Like when you hold your
Yeah.
camera over it, it'll pull up the link, and then
Right.
you can click on the link.
so we don't need the link on the brochure necessarily unless you would want that,
It's the
you
same
know.
information,
Yeah,
though.
right, I guess not. right.
Yeah,
So
okay.
where would the brochure actually be available?
Well, we had talked about that before, and I'm trying to remember what we said.
Oh, that's it.
City Hall, the Visitor Center, yeah.
What about the Chamber of Commerce?
That's what I mean by the Visitor
Oh,
Center.
the visitors. Can I make a comment to the Bradford pear note?
Do we want?
This tree is, wait, fun fact, the tree has beautiful profusion of spring flowers that emit an odor that is often compared to rotting fish.
I think that's the nicest way to put
And,
it, but.
and I always heard that, and personally, I think
Smell doesn't
it's-
bother me. Some people hate it.
Yeah, I think it smells like dirty socks.
I've heard much worse things.
Yeah. I just,
Not like
We could
I've
change it
always
to
had-
often
Ginkgo berries.
that emit an unpleasant odor.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
Although I think
I
the
think-
rotting fish is funny.
Yeah, it is. It's really funny.
I must have gotten that from somewhere like Arbor Day or something like that.
Rotting fish. Yeah, dirty socks, rotting fish.
I don't know what that says about me. I actually don't mind it.
See, I don't either.
I don't mind it
I don't
either.
know if I'd want one in my yard,
I used to have a
but
couple of
in
them.
terms of the smell.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
but I know people that
Yeah,
like
it doesn't
makes them sick.
bother me, but it's like, it's very pungent.
It just smells like pollen to me,
It
honestly.
does. It does. It's very polleny smelling.
Well, everybody doesn't like something,
Right.
Yeah, right.
but, fill in the blanks, okay.
So, what do we think, though, of the list as a whole and the types of information that are on it? Right amount, too much?
In terms of the.
The descriptions here.
I think the description, well, assuming that the descriptions can reside elsewhere, I don't know if we have to edit that necessarily. I mean, it obviously needs to be edited, but I don't think there's any kind of size constraint.
There would be for a brochure. You
Well,
don't want a
what I'm getting at
voluminous
is,
brochure.
is that's something that they're gonna, is that gonna be on the brochure as well?
What, the print, yeah, this is the information that would be on the brochure.
Okay, all right, okay.
But I think we ought to just, and I don't know how many words this is.
So I was just thinking it would be like, kind of like a card that would direct you to the map and all the other stuff, but all the detail wouldn't necessarily be on the brochure.
I mean, that would be one way to do it. Definitely a cheaper way.
To just have a,
Postcard, essentially.
so then the QR code would be on the postcard.
Yeah,
So that none of the detail information would be on the print brochure. It would all be online.
I mean, you could still put something on the
Well, that's the question. What?
postcard. I mean, you could do the, some sort of front design, tree walk, and then have like the website and the QR code, and then on the back maybe could be like a little map graphic or something like that.
I mean, we're all, the only concern I have about that is people who aren't that technologically savvy who are visiting.
Right.
And I think there are a number of maybe older people. I mean, we're here, we're fine with that tech and QR codes. But I don't know that people like my parents would be able to navigate that very well.
Yeah,
but you have
exactly.
to accompany your parents.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's another thing in itself.
Hey, and all the menus being on QR codes, I'm pretty sure
I
a
love
lot of
that.
people have figured that out
Yeah,
now
yeah,
that didn't know before.
They really made a comeback. I mean, because they were around some years ago, and it was like they weren't going anywhere. And then during the pandemic, they really made a comeback.
They
I
did.
love them now. I tell you,
Too.
I would rather have that than a print menu.
I just feel like the rule of thumb with brochures is you have to make the brochure physically appealing for somebody to pick it up, to look at it or examine it or discover it or something. And that's why I'm always wary of having something embedded with a whole bunch of detail that's kind of like what people won't pick up. So, it's a balance, of course, and
Yeah,
that's my only concern. I mean, we can have a very abbreviated detail about it. I'm just saying, but you really got to take all that into consideration when designing a brochure.
Well, I mean, should we take out, for instance, the history and lore part of all this and include the type, the wildlife, the environmental value, and
fun fact.
the fun fact?
Yeah, I mean, if you really wanted to, I would say that'd be the easiest thing to eliminate,
What, the history?
the history
Yeah,
part.
yeah.
But I'm just thinking, like, in terms of content, I mean, we might want to like earmark certain things that we want to have in it, but let the designer sort of have at
Oh,
it.
absolutely, yeah.
You
that-
know what I
that-
mean?
yeah, yeah.
I don't want to be too restrictive in saying, like, we got to have this on the first part,
No, I agree. That's what I was saying, is that
Yeah.
it looks, sort of plain here, but it wouldn't look plain once it's designed. So maybe we
Right.
should just, look at a sample design next time or something.
Yeah,
Or whenever we can get it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd be up for that. yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
There might be parts that when the designer looks at it, that it would be interesting to include different portions of each of the species. Like some of the history and lore might be more interesting for some of the trees than for others.
Yeah, but it would be all, that would all be online. You know, that
Right,
would all
Yeah,
be
yeah,
right,
yeah,
right.
that's what I'm saying.
But
You-
just
Well, now,
wouldn't be
when
on-
I was doing, to speak to your point, when I was doing it, sometimes I had a hard time between the fun fact and the history and lore, because sometimes I thought the history was more interesting than the
Right,
fun
the fun
fact.
fact.
And I'm like, well, this has to go here because it's not history, even though, you know.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
I
can't
get-
you sort of do a combination of that? You know, in some cases, the fun fact might be a historical note or the history
Right.
or something,
Right.
rather
Yeah.
than
5 pages, that's definitely not going to fit in a brochure.
is-
I mean, I don't know if I'm, because I've attended a number of these Paul Lovett discussions that he's had, these lectures that he's had, but I think there's sort of an uptick in knowing about Rehoboth history. And so I think it's a viable topic, you know, to sort of take advantage of, you know, to the extent that we can. And the fact that, you know, Rehoboth has had a long standing of being a treed city that, you know, is all kind of part and parcel of it, so.
Well, so it sounds like if we're gonna do a brochure, somebody is gonna have to edit this and choose the parts that, like, I was just looking at it, the Kawans and Cherry, the history part is more interesting to me than the fun fact part. Because the history is about how Japan gave us the trees and it was planted all over DC and now it's in the Cherry Blossom Festival. That's, the fun fact was that it was named after originally named something different after a mountain in Japan. So, but I think somebody would have to go through and organize that and get it narrowed down to give to the designer.
Okay.
Okay, well, let me work with Lynn on it and see what. we
Yeah,
can
and
do,
that's
at
what,
least for
I
some
would hope. Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Cooler heads, you know, so to speak. All right,
Okay.
have we
we're
addressed
to-
this topic? I'd like to think we have, okay.
Yeah, and I don't have an update on the online mapping one. I did not have a chance to reach out to Max, so.
Okay, all right, I'm going to move to item C here. I don't know if we necessarily want to spend time on this, or anybody have any other thoughts about this?
I think it's something Andrea's working on and.
Right, but I mean, we talked about with regard to the ivy infiltration, which I said as new business because she brought it up last time, but I mean, to the extent that that's related to this topic, I think it's, I thought at the last meeting, we sort of felt strongly about it, and I think we should move forward, you know,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely,
So,
definitely. So we just have to talk, I guess, next time about the program and possible dates and all that kind
Okay.
of stuff, right?
I'll mention, Angie couldn't be here today, but she and I had a conversation, and her thoughts were that we would develop an educational, you know, project, let's say, put it that way, where we would first try to the extent that we can, sort of an inventory of affected trees in the city that have, you know, an ivy infestation, or however you want to, I don't know if that's the right word or not, but anyway, and then from that to kind of create like you know, what can be done about that, or what methods, or I don't know, to the extent of are there any programs within the state that, you know, assists in eradicating this stuff, or you know, I'm just thinking, besides the city, are there other programs involved with regard to, I mean, if you go to like a tree service can attend to this if you want. I mean, I'm assuming most would, but I don't know if that's something they do or don't do, you know?
they do.
It
yes.
depends on really what you're trying to accomplish. Like a lot of the tree services, like when I used to sell tree work, if a tree had ivy on it, I just included it in my estimate for no money. Like it was just a part of like hauling away the brush.
Yeah,
And we
right.
would just, all you do is cut it at the base and at shoulder height. So we didn't treat it or anything like that.
Yeah,
So it comes back. You've got to,
yeah,
you've either got to dig it out, pull it out, or treat it to really get it to go away.
yeah.
But we would always cut the window on the tree.
Mhm.
There
But-
are a lot of online resources
Okay.
to look at this. A lot of University of Maryland, University of Virginia, Oregon State, all of this is online. They all have programs that educational programs they've developed for removing it. There's also, I was mentioning before the meeting, there's a little town that might act as a nice model. It's called Hyattsville, Maryland. They have a nice program, online program for it. It might be something we want to use as a template or a model.
Okay.
It's a how-to for individuals as well as what to look for, how to prevent it, how to continue to treat it. It's a nice little program. There's a lot online we could do, and probably University of Delaware. I wouldn't be surprised if they have some kind of
All right.
program.
Yeah,
I
it
didn't
definitely
see it, but
wouldn't be reinventing the wheel on this one.
I think it would be more about adapting other programs to suit our town.
Okay. I just didn't know specifically with regard to the state of Delaware or whatever, that there would be other semi-local or local resources or whatever.
Personally, we've had a tree treated in our yard, in our neighbors. It was a lime tree that was terribly infested with ivy, and an arborist came and took care of the problem for us. But it wasn't an overnight. It was about, as Liz described, removing a window, and then once the tree and the vines released from the bark, they came back with a lift, and it took a long time to carefully remove those vines from the trunk
Really?
safely.
Yeah, I know there is, I'm not sure if it's actually through the state or not, but there's the Delaware Invasive Species Council, and they give like small grants, like think a couple $100 at a time. And I believe it's not just to like local governments. I think it can be even individuals and nonprofits or groups that you can get the money and then use it for treatment of invasive species. So if you had to buy a chemical or hand tools or something like that. Not sure if it's worth it for the amount of money. That's why I've never applied for it for the city, because it's only a few $100 and it would probably cost more for me to take the time to apply than we would get. But I know they've been around for a while, so.
Okay.
So do we know, is it primarily, so I'm guessing it's not our parks and street trees that are an issue. It's probably primarily private property where we see the,
Yeah, there's a few
ivy.
private, the parks were really bad when I first started, and there's still work to be done in Central Park because it's so large and we have so many bordering neighbors. But like if you look, say, on Street View of Deer Park and then go and look in person, but like you have to treat it forever. It's not something like you treat it for a year or two and then, it's all perfect, because then you have essentially a blank slate and you have to hope that good things come back in place of the ivy, or plant good things and then risk ivy coming back and having to spray and kill it all again. So, and we've been lucky that we have, I think, we have good soil here, and we've had good things pop up where I have treated, and we've had a lot of volunteer groups too that come through and keep it off the trees. So we've been lucky, but there are some private properties that haven't, either they like it or they don't care, or they don't like it and haven't done anything. And there are people who like ivy. I used to have a client that she had a cherry tree and she liked it on the trunk of the tree. And I was like, I'll just don't let it get, it's like what, 8-foot tall trunk on a cherry. I was like, just don't ever let it get above the trunk, And she didn't. She kept it groomed. It was beautiful, perfect. So, to each their own.
Tree service did you use?
So, we'll,
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Okay, so we'll
I'll let you know
move,
afterward.
do more on that next time?
yeah, obviously, we'll keep this on the agenda, and hopefully we'll have we can maybe start mapping out, how we want to.
What did Andrea want to do? I missed all that from the last time I
A
wasn't here.
workshop, and she wanted to distribute, there's a,
Handout.
yeah, there's a.
I gave her a couple example handouts that either I had collected, whether somebody gave them to me or something like that. At least a year ago.
I think the focus was mostly on awareness, about how it affects the trees and all that kind of stuff. I don't think we wanted to be, anti-ivy zealots or anything like that, but, clearly, I think to the extent that we can, reduce it or have property owners address it and stuff like that. I think it would be the focus of it, but,
Yeah, if you really ride around, there's not too many properties that have it like that, where it's just everywhere.
Part of it too was that since it is so invasive, it would be, you know, giving people alternatives for ground cover as well. And so it would be a nice follow-up to the lawn alternatives that was done in the fall. I think she also mentioned that.
Right.
you know,
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a
Yeah.
good idea.
so.
Delaware, they had at one point, I don't know if it's still valid, but because I got it years and years ago, a book on like common invasive species in the landscape, and then they recommended like a couple of alternatives that filled. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah,
I'm
it's a handout, and
it's-
it's online.
Is
I
it
think.
online? Because I have it like in a little, it's like a nice booklet is what I'll call it. Like it's not, it has like a spine and stuff like that. And it's glossy color pages, and it's really nice. It'll have things like, instead of barberry, plant this. Instead of wing euonymus, plant like things you would typically see in a landscape.
Yeah, like plant instead of the winged euonymus plant, plant Virginia sweetspire.
Yeah, or like, I mean, I'm sure they had native vines on there too, even
I
though that can
think
be argued
they-
either way too.
I think they did.
Yeah, I still have a copy of it. I'll have to try and dig it out and see who did it to see if it's been updated.
Would you do that? Thanks.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was a really, I mean, I got it like right when I got out of college and was working for state, and it was such a good little like reference book to like simple to recommend to people.
Okay, that sounds good.
So do you want to move from that into Arbor Day?
Yeah, let me just touch base, wait a minute. Okay, okay, so, yeah, I'll just share, well, actually, at the last meeting, when Andrea was here, she talked about how she was not going to be available for the weekend of the 28th of April for the Arbor Day celebration. And she's been kind of the person that's done this for the last couple of years and is a number of contacts with the school and all this other kind of stuff. But so anyway, in the meantime, she and I chatted, and she has had a discussion with, I don't know the name of the person, but her contact at the Rehoboth Elementary School. And it turns out that the date, the 28th, which is not necessarily a hard and fast, I mean, it's like maybe the recommended date or whatever, but you know, we've done it at different times, different dates and so forth, that the teacher involved was saying, you know, probably better for us if we were to do it, what they settled on was the week before the 21st, which Andrea could do, which I think would be helpful for us, you know, in terms of not having, you know, she could handle some of the stuff that she's comfortable with doing, and you know, and anyway, as you know, one advantage, certainly you know, I think a significant advantage. But the only other concern was that how will this coincide with the art project that kind of goes along with it? There's this poster contest that the students in the schools are involved in, and then there's they select, you know, the quote winners or whatever they want to just describe that, and then those at each school, and then the schools would have another event, I think statewide, and they would pick a statewide poster of the year or whatever, and obviously we didn't want to interfere with that, and Andrea assured me that that would not be the case with changing the date, that there's still, you know, that will still be
Yeah, because that's.
you
something
know,
we do
a
right.
part of what we would do, you know, and so I obviously I shared the date with Mayor Mills, and he was fine with changing it. However, his concern was about the end of the date and whether that date would have any kind of interference with the other parts of the program, and I don't think there would be. So you know, I think he's okay with it. But that was the word that I got from Andrea. So you know, I think we can it's still gonna be, you know, the same amount of work or whatever, but I think the fact that she can be one hand and so forth, that, you know.
What was the date that they decided on?
The
again?
21st, which is a week before. you know.
Okay.
And then the other things that she had talked about were, what was proposed was that they weren't going to necessarily be doing it on the school grounds as they've done it before, that there's two locations, one's near one Lake Gerard, near where the playground is. I don't know exactly where that is, but near in this general vicinity, or another spot that's around on, I want to say Second Street. Don't quote me
Yeah,
on this.
yeah.
It's on Second Street that had been cleared before, and I think maybe
Third
you were
Street,
involved.
Third Street.
Third Street.
Oh,
With
okay,
that little
that-
sort of semicircle
Yeah,
across from the
that-
mayor's
Yeah.
house. And
Yeah, that they wanted to do prior to,
Yeah.
we're gonna do the
yeah.
oak
COVID.
saplings,
Right.
right.
So,
yeah.
So as long as you guys you know where it is. I'm
I know
not
where that one
exactly
is.
sure.
I'm not sure about the Lake Gerard one.
Yeah.
It was a Cranberry Park thing, I think, over on, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, in that
In fact,
general.
I thought
vicinity.
she got that from you, but maybe not.
Maybe.
yeah.
It's been a
Very- very-
while.
Very, very possible. So anyway, but none of that's been decided yet, but again, they do this with the 5th grade class and the 4th grade class, and they're separate events, and then there would be some kind of gathering here at City Hall for the unveiling or whatever, or recognition of the winners of the poster contest, and that's still going to happen. So it would, and I think there'll be a proclamation from the mayor and all that. So, I mean, all yet to be nailed down, but I think generally speaking, that's.
And
that's
it is a morning event, right? The reason
Yeah,
I
I'm
say
assu-
that is because
yeah,
that day
or-
would be the commissioners' meeting in the afternoon.
Yeah,
So
right,
as long as it was finished by like noon.
right. I think that was
okay,
the idea.
right,
Right.
I think we've always done it
Yeah.
more
More-
before lunchtime.
Right.
So, but again, there would be two, it would probably be within the span of an hour where they'd have the one and then the other, you know,
Right.
so
Okay.
it might
Yeah,
take
if-
a little bit longer than an hour, but two different sort of events taking place.
Yeah, we've typically done it, I mean, we've changed it a little every year out of necessity, but they typically like to have Ashley, the educator from the state, come, and they'll like kind of rotate with the like stations with her.
Right,
Yeah, right,
And then we do the other grade.
right.
yeah. right,
So,
Okay.
so anyway,
So we should pencil that in for the 21st, you think, at this point?
let me, she has not nailed the date down yet with the teacher involved.
Okay.
So I think we'll just wait until, and I think she'll know within, I can announce that or share that with you once I find out.
Okay.
But yeah, because
but I just-
Jackie will probably have to make sure that all the other teachers and Dr.
Right.
Yeah,
Persons
you're right.
and
I mean, it
their
was really up
maintenance
to the school. Obviously, it's kind of their program more than anything, you know, so, but
Well, if we're not
it sounded like
doing
that was good, and we just need to get somebody to bless it, so.
Yeah, because the teacher from the school, like her and Andrea do a lot of work on this,
right.
coordinating, like, because Jackie's kind of like the school liaison, because they have so much going on at the school.
Yeah.
And then Andrea herds everyone else together.
Yeah, and I think, you know, the kids march from the school over, you know, across town to do the planting and all that. That's going to be a little bit different wrinkle than what we've done
Well, if you remember,
before.
before COVID, they did come here,
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
so,
so they've done the walk before.
Glad we're not doing it at the school. We've done too many trees for the school, so
Yeah.
let's put them on city property.
okay. So
Okay.
That's all I know. So, anyway, I think we've covered all the topics listed. Anybody else have any other comments to share? I don't think I have any.
So our next meeting is,
Uh,
it's the 9th, or the 10th, wait a minute.
Somebody look at a calendar.
Yeah, I had a minute ago.
Second Fridays.
Yeah.
10th.
We're seeing the 10th of
Hold on,
February.
I had it a second ago. The 10th, yeah,
The
February
10th,
10th.
okay. Same bat time, okay. All right, and if we had a citizen here, we'd request a comment, but we don't. So unless there's anything else bubbling to the surface, I'm gonna adjourn the meeting at, looks like maybe 11:01. 11:01.
Okay.
And thank you all for accommodating us, and to the public who may or may not be with us at the moment, we'll see. But anyway, and thanks to Liz for your help, appreciate it, and to Ann Womack, who is our tireless staff member who makes it all happen. Okay.
Okay.
So, all right.
Great.